Okay. Hello, 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 hello. This is AnneHumphrey, your transformational life coach speaker, and your creator of the Science of Getting Rich mindset and mastermind group. I have been experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties, so thank you for being patient. The time now is 7:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And let me just do a little quick, I just want to look at myself just to make sure. Yeah, I am live. That is so fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to jump right in. I'm doing a live read tonight, The Science of Getting Rich by Mr. Wallace D. Wattles. Wallace D. Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich. And as I always like to do is show, here it is, Chapter 9, How to Use the Will. How to use the will. So before I get started, for all my Facebookers, please, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on a replay, please like this page, please like the video and share it. And for all my Twitterers, thank you for looking. Please also share this as well. And for all my YouTubers, all you have to do is look below, hit the bell, subscribe, so then you will know when I will have another video. And please also be sure to leave your comments. And for all my Instagrammers, you guys are so amazing. Thank you for taking the time out to view my videos on IGTV. I really so appreciate it. So let's jump right in. Mr. Wallace D. Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich, Chapter 9, How to Use the Will. How to use the will. To set about getting rich in a scientific way, you do not try to apply your willpower to anything outside of yourself. You have no right to do so anyway. It is wrong to apply your will to other men and women in order to get them to do what you wish done. It is flagrantly wrong to coerce people by mental power as it is to coerce them by physical power. If compelling people by physical force to do things for you reduces them to slavery, compelling them by mental means accomplishes exactly the same thing. The only difference is in methods. If taking things from people by physical force is robbery, then taking things by mental force is robbery also. There is no difference in principle. You have no right to use your willpower upon another person, even for his own good. For you do not know what is for his good. The science of getting rich does not require you to apply power or force to any other person in any way whatsoever. There is not the slightest necessity for doing so. Indeed, any attempt to use your will upon others will only tend to defeat your purposes. You do not need to apply your will to things in order to compel them to come to you. that would simply be trying to coerce God and would be foolish and useless as well as irrelevant. You do not have to compel God to give you good things any more than you have to use your willpower to make the sun rise. You do not have to use your willpower to conquer an unfriendly deity or to make stubborn and rebellious forces do your bidding. Substance is friendly to you and is more anxious to give you what you want than you are to get it. To get rich, you need only to use your willpower upon yourself. When you know what to think and do, then you must use your will to compel yourself to think and do the right things. That is the legitimate use of the will in getting what you want. To use it in holding yourself to the right course. Use your will to keep yourself thinking and acting in a certain way. Do not try to project your will or your thoughts or your mind out into space to act on things or people. Keep your mind at home. It can accomplish more there than elsewhere. Use your mind to form a mental image of what you want and to hold that vision with faith and purpose, and use your will to keep your mind working in the right way. The more steady and continuous your faith and purpose, the more rapidly you will get rich, because you will make only positive impressions upon substance, and you will not neutralize or offset them by negative impressions. The picture of your desires held with faith and purpose is taken up by the formless and permeates it to great distances throughout the universe, for all I know. As this impression spreads, all things are set moving toward its realization. Every living thing, every inanimate thing, and the things yet uncreated are stirred together, bringing into being that which you want. All force begins to be exerted in that direction. All things begin to move toward you. The minds of people everywhere are influenced toward doing the things necessary to the fulfilling of your desires, and they work for you unconsciously. But you can check all this by starting a negative impression in the formless substance. Doubt or unbelief is as certain to start a movement away from you as faith and purpose are to start one toward you. It is by not understanding that It is by not understanding this that most people who try to make use of mental science and getting rich make their failure. Every hour and moment you spend in giving heed to doubts and fears. Every hour you spend in worry. Every hour in which your soul is possessed by unbelief sets a current away from you in the whole domain of intelligent substance. All the promises are unto them that believe, and unto them only. Notice how insistent Jesus was upon this point of belief. And now you know the reason why. Since belief is all important, it behooves you to guard your thoughts. And as your beliefs will be shaped to a very great extent by the things you observe and think about, it is important that you should command your attention. And here the will comes into use. For it is by your will that you determine upon what things your attention shall be fixed. If you want to become rich, you must not make a study of poverty. Things are not brought into being by thinking about their opposites. Health is never to be attained by studying disease and thinking about disease. Righteousness is not to be promoted by studying sin and thinking about sin. And no one ever got rich by studying poverty and thinking about poverty. Medicine as a science of disease has increased disease. Religion as a science of sin has promoted sin. And economics as a study of poverty will fill the world with wretchedness and want. Do not talk about poverty. Do not investigate it or concern yourself with it. Never mind what its causes are. You have nothing to do with them. What concerns you is the cure. Do not spend your time in charitable work or charitable movements. All charity only tends to perpetuate the wretchedness it aims to eradicate. I do not say that you should be hard-hearted or unkind and refuse to hear the cry of need, but you must try to eradicate conventional ways. Put poverty behind you and put all that pertains to it behind you and make good. Get rich. That is the best way you can help the poor. And you cannot hold the mental image, which is to make you rich, if you fill your mind with pictures of poverty. Do not read books or papers which give circumstantial accounts of the wretchedness, of the tenement dwellers, of the horrors of child labor, and so on. Do not read anything which fills your mind with gloomy images of want and suffering. You cannot help the poor in the least by knowing about these things. And the widespread knowledge of them does not tend at all to do away with poverty. What tends to do away with poverty is not the getting of pictures of poverty into your mind, but getting pictures of wealth into the minds of the poor. You are not deserting the poor in their misery when you refuse to allow your mind to be filled with pictures of that misery. Poverty can be done away with, not by increasing the number of well-to-do people who think about poverty, but by increasing the number of poor people who purpose with faith to get rich. The poor do not need charity, they need inspiration. Charity only sends them a loaf of bread to keep them alive in their wretchedness, or gives them an entertainment to make them forget for an hour or two. But inspiration will cause them to rise out of their misery. If you want to help the poor, demonstrate to them that they can become rich. Prove it by getting rich yourself. The only way in which poverty will ever be banished from this world is by getting a large and consistently increasing number of people to practice the teachings of this book. People must be taught to become rich by creation and not by competition. Every man who becomes rich by competition throws down behind him the ladder by which he rises and keeps others down. But every man who gets rich by creation opens a way for thousands to follow him and inspires them to do so. You are not showing hardness of heart or an unfeeling disposition when you refuse to pity poverty, see poverty, read about poverty, or think or talk about it, or to listen to those who do talk about it. Use your willpower to keep your mind off the subject of poverty and to keep it fixed with faith and purpose on the vision of what you want. My goodness. This is the ending of chapter 9. This is the ending of chapter 9, The Science of Getting Rich, Mr. Wallace D. Wattles. You know, this, I just don't even know where to begin. I get so excited every time I read Mr. Wallace D. Wattles' pages, because I am under the belief that he was just way ahead of his time to have written this back in 1910. I believe, and it's only my belief, I believe that he was a vessel. He was just simply the vessel, and he was obedient to what he had to write. Let me just kind of recap some of the things that he said in this chapter, because I encourage each and every one of you, listen, ladies and gentlemen, to read this. Read the information. Allow this information to permeate and penetrate through your mind, through your soul, in your body. Because guess what? At the end of the day, you're going to be who everybody sees. And whatever it is, how you are conducting yourself, the conversations that you carry, the way that you speak about things, people are listening. It's the same way as a parent who has a child. That's why they say when you have little children, trust me, they know what's going on. They look at what they see in the adults around them, and they mimic that behavior. And trust me, there are lots of people who are looking at you because you are a leader. You may be someone that they look up to. You may be someone that they admire. You may be someone that could be their mentor, a big brother, a big sister. And the things that pour out of your mouth, the words that you use to make creations really should be thought about. Because of the fact that now you are aware of this technology, I call this a technology. It's definitely a technology. Because you are aware of this technology, it is important. It is imperative that you conduct yourself in a certain way, as Mr. Wallace D. Wattles states throughout this entire book, by doing things in a certain way. So let me just go back here, because this is something that you really shouldn't take for granted. I mean, I say this a lot. You know, people want the lotto ticket. This is your lotto ticket right here, ladies and gentlemen. The Science of Getting Rich. This is your lotto ticket right here by Mr. Wallace D. Wattles. This is the best lotto ticket that you can have. Now, of course, I'm not saying not to play lotto. I play lotto too. But what I am saying to you is this. Read the book. And let the book and allow the book to read you. Just never know. You just never know what could manifest. So let's go over a couple of things. I like to highlight a couple of things here because Mr. Wallace D. Wattles said a whole lot. And I just want to highlight a couple of paragraphs that really resonated with my soul. And if you were listening to this, whether live or on the replay, post below what resonated with you. Share it in the comments section, and what resonated with you and why. What resonated with you in this chapter 9 and why it resonated with you. Okay, so let me start. Let me begin. So I love the area here where he says you have no right to use your willpower upon another person, even, quote, for his own good, for you do not know what is for his good. Now, how many times, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard, oh, I'm doing this because it is for this person's good. I'm doing this because it's for her good. How do you know? I mean, we do not know. Half of the times, if I can be really real and just keep it real, most of the times you don't even know what's good for yourself. So how do you know what is good for another individual? Let me go on. The Science of Getting Rich, same paragraph. Well, at least it's a paragraph in mine because I think everyone has a different book right here. Okay. The Science of Getting Rich does not require you to apply power or force to another person in any way whatsoever. There is not the slightest necessity for doing so. Indeed, any attempt to use your will upon others will only tend to defeat your purpose. He said, that's huge. Because at the end of the day, we do not have the right at all. As I just previously stated, oftentimes People are not even aware of what they need. So stay in your lane, basically. Okay. And listen to what Mr. Wallace D. Wattles says. And this is also biblical too. I mean, not to go biblical, but it's also biblical. Okay. Something else he says, that would simply be trying to coerce God. First of all, let me back up. You do not need to apply your will to things in order to compel them to come to you. You would simply be trying to coerce God and would be foolish and useless as well as irrelevant. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's right here. What he's talking about is so biblical. There's no need for you to do that. God doesn't need your help at all, at all. And so, again, I'm just highlighting some things that really resonated with me while doing this read. When you know what to think and do, then you must use your will to compel yourself to think and do the right things. Let me read that part again. When you know what to think and do, then you must use your will to compel yourself to think and do the right things, ladies and gentlemen. Then he says that is the legitimate use of the will in getting what you want. To use it in holding yourself to the right course. Use your will to keep yourself thinking and acting in a certain way. Bingo. Okay, well, if you say, well, hey, Ann, I don't know what it is that I must do. Read that part. Just keep reading it over and over and over again. This is a technology. This is a science and a technology all wrapped up in one. Well, this is a science, a technology, and a methodology all wrapped up in one. Okay? He has made it plain. He wrote the vision and made it plain upon tables so he may run that readeth it. He's doing exactly what Habakkuk 2:2 states. It commands us to write the vision, make it plain upon tables so he may run that readeth it. And that's exactly what Mr. Wallace D. Wattles did. When you know what to think and do, then you must use your will to compel yourself to think and do the right things. That is the legitimate use of the will in getting what you want. To use it in holding yourself to the right course. Use your will to keep yourself thinking and acting in a certain way. That is so powerful. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. So let's go here. And of course, I read this all the time about do not spend your time in charitable work. My goodness, I never heard it put that way. I never heard it put that way. So let me read it again. Oh, and here it is. I always like to show Mr. Wallace D. Wattles. You see my little squiggies right there. Do not spend your time in charitable work right there. Okay. And I even put it here at the top of the page so I remember where that passage was, because there are certain things that just stand out, that permeates and penetrates with my soul. And I want to make sure that I have it, that I can go right to it and say, that's that passage. That's where I need to do it. And I'm just sharing some things with you as to what I do and how I study. You find your own methodology and way of doing it, and just stick to it. Do it in a certain way for you, okay? But that's just my methodology and what I do. But let's get to reading. It says, do not spend your time in charitable work or charity movements. All charity only tends to perpetuate the wretchedness it aims to eradicate. Wow. Wow. I do not say that you should be hard-hearted or unkind. He's not saying that, folks. He's not saying for you to be hard-hearted and unkind. He's not saying that. But what he is saying, and or refuse to hear the cry of the needy. He's not saying that. He's not saying for you not to hear the cry of the need. This is what he is saying. But you must not try to eradicate poverty in any of the conventional ways. Put poverty behind you and put all that pertains to it behind you and make good. Now, here is the kicker. Mr. Wallace D. Wattles says, get rich. That is the best way you can help the poor. Get rich. That is the best way that you can help the poor. Let me show it to you again, ladies and gentlemen. These are not my words. This is Mr. Wallace D. Wattles. I like to show it up there in the screen. Get rich. That is the best way that you can help the poor. Wow. Oh, I love it. 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 And I like to say again, Mr. Wallace D. Wattles, I am just honored. I know that you are in a different place, in a different dimension right now, but I just am so honored that you were obedient. You were obedient to write something that has outlived you, that is totally a legacy. So this is just phenomenal. You cannot help the poor in the least by knowing about these things, and in the widespread knowledge of them does not tend at all to do away with poverty. What tends to do away with poverty, so now he shows you one sentence, and then he gives you the cure. Because remember, he said that that's what our job is to do, is to find the cure. He says, what tends to do away with poverty is not the getting of pictures of poverty into your mind, but getting pictures of wealth into the minds of the poor. Let me show this to you again. These are not my words. These are Mr. Wallace D. Wattles' words right there. What tends, right there, what tends to do away with poverty is not the getting of pictures of poverty into your mind, but getting pictures of wealth into the minds of the poor. The reason why I show this, ladies and gentlemen, because, oftentimes I don't know what kind of learner you are. Some people love to hear things and they get it when they hear it, via audio. Sometimes, you got a lot of visual learners. I strongly believe that when the words are presented and you're able to see them as I am seeing them real live, it allows, there's a penetration that's happening through the lens of this camera that's on my computer. So I like to show that. Again, I want to repeat that part. What tends to do away with poverty is not the getting of pictures of poverty into your mind, but getting pictures of wealth into the minds of the poor. Wow. You are not deserting the poor in their misery when you refuse to allow your mind to be filled with pictures of that misery. You know how the saying is, misery loves company? Well, that's true. That's absolutely true, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the reason why, again, I don't know how you are showing up in the world. I don't know if you're someone's mentor. And let me just say this. Oftentimes I hear people say, well, hey, Anne, I'm no one's mentor. I just go to work, I come home, and, I may go out and then I may go to church and then, but you don't know who's watching you. You have no idea who you could be mentoring without even saying a word. You know why? Because they're watching you. They're looking at your movements. They are mimicking your behaviors because they may look at you as someone that they admire. You never know what the situation may be. And that is why it's super important that you get first your mindset right. Because all this that is happening right now in life is just a pure dress rehearsal. And the more dress rehearsals, of course, I've done theater. So that's the reason why everything with me is like a stage, because it is. This is nothing but a dress rehearsal. And the more dress rehearsals you have, when it's lights, camera, action time, you will be ready. You will be ready. And that's why it's important for you first to get your mind right. It is imperative that you get your mind right. Let's move on. You are not deserting the poor in their misery when you refuse to allow your mind to be filled with pictures of that misery. I had to repeat that again. Because oftentimes people will say, well, I've got to be a listening ear. Even though I'm advancing, but if I don't do that, then they're going to think that I'm changing or I'm acting funny or I think I'm better and all of these things. But then I'm of the opinion you're hurting them more, because here it is, you have a technology, you have a methodology and a science that you have come in contact with. Okay. And you are failing not only them, but yourself. Let's move on. Poverty can be done away with, not by increasing the number of well-to-do people who think about poverty, but by the increasing number of poor people who purpose with faith to get rich. The poor do not need charity. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is where I'm reading at. Okay. The poor do not need charity. Listen to Mr. Wallace D. Wattles. The poor do not need charity. They need inspiration. They need that jolt. They need to be awakened. See, I'm under the belief that when you have a poor state of mind, you are sleeping. They need inspiration so they can be awakened. So they can, it's almost like slapping them out of that mindset, because there's a lot of people who are super duper poor in everything that they do, the way that they think, the way that they walk, the way that they look. It's like, oh, woe is me. And you ask them how they're doing, and then they give you a whole laundry list of things that are happening. And I'm not saying that things are not happening in people's lives, but what I am saying is how you respond to it. And are you looking at that situation as a learning? Not just saying, oh, woe is me. Okay, because oftentimes you have people to do that. Let's keep moving on. It says charity only sends them a loaf of bread to keep them alive in their wretchedness. Do you hear that? Wretchedness. Today we have other terms, but I'll just stick to wretchedness. In their wretchedness, or gives them an entertainment. How many do we know? We know about the entertainment, folks, right? Okay. Or gives them an entertainment to make them forget for an hour or two, but inspiration will cause them to rise out of their misery. If you want to help the poor, demonstrate. See, it's the same thing I'm saying. It's the same exact thing. He's saying to demonstrate. Demonstrate to them that they can become rich. Prove it by getting rich yourself. Wow. Listen, ladies and gentlemen. You know, this is something that you have to read over and over again. You have to hear over and over again. So then you can be aware even of the things that you say. Sometimes, you know, I catch myself, and I'm pretty good. But, you know, sometimes I catch myself and I'm saying, no. So this is the reason why the more you allow this science, this technology, this methodology to permeate and penetrate in your mind, body, and soul, the more you will be aware of how you're walking, how you're talking, how you're speaking, how you're interacting, how you're engaging, how you respond to things. Oh, yes. Let's move on. The only way in which poverty will ever be banished from this world is getting a large and consistently increasing number of people to practice the teachings of this book. We can stop right there. Do you understand that? The only way in which poverty will ever be banished, done away with, hasta la vista, from this world is by getting a large and consistently increasing number of people to practice the teachings of this book. This book, meaning The Science of Getting Rich by Mr. Wallace D. Wattles. Okay, and let me show you where he says it. Right there. Do you see that, ladies and gentlemen? Right there. The only way, right there, ladies and gentlemen, right there. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, this is a profound study. And I like to just thank those who are taking the time out to reading this book for themselves. Only thing I can do is present it, is offer it, is share it, is begin a group so we can have conversations and transformation. It's up to you to read it. It's up to you to read it. And it's up to you for the book to read you. I say that oftentimes. I say, you know what? This book I'm reading, but it's also reading me too. It's getting me prepared. And if you want something different, if you know that it's your divine right to be more, and that you were to be more, you were designed to be more. You are groomed. You're being groomed for something greater than you, something that you can't even fathom. Then you need to read this book. You will be amazed by what will manifest because you are reading something that's good for the mind, body, and soul. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am just so honored. I'd like to as I always like to do, I like to read a little snippet of the upcoming chapter that I will be reading. I would like for you to stay tuned, as for all of those who may not be in the Science of Getting Rich Mindset and Mastermind group by AnneHumphrey. If you're not a member, I will have all that information down below, especially for my YouTubers and my Instagrammers and my Twitterers. As soon as you click on the link, you'll be able to find all of that information down below on this video here. And all I ask is, if this is the type of group that you would like to be around other like-minded individuals who are passionate, who are hungry, who are excited about truth, who divinely know that they have the right to this information, that they have the right to study this information, and that more importantly, they have the right to demonstrate this information by the way that they walk in their life, then, hey, I ask you to come and join us here on Facebook. You can find me, like I said, all the information will be here below, but the name of the group is called the Science of Getting Rich Mindset and Mastermind Group with AnneHumphrey. Okay. But let's go on to chapter 10. Chapter 10, for the use of the will. I'm just going to read a little snippet of this today. All right, just a little snippet of this today. And just so that you will know, you can get prepared for. I encourage all of you to continue to read the book, to continue to allow the book to read you, and more importantly, to listen to the audio. Listen to it when you get ready to go to sleep. Let it just play. Let it just put this, if you go to YouTube and then you click on the video and then you click on the inside and just have it to loop, 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 loop. Just let this loop while you're sleeping. You will be surprised. One of my favorite sections here in Further Use of the Will, Mr. Wallace D. Wattles is a dynamic human being. I love this man. I feel like as though that I know him, as I am, as I read his writings. And I have read this in further other videos. And I will also read this again, because Mr. Wallace D. Wattles he did not create this book to just tell you everything and not give you a step-by-step. Everything that he does, he tells you what is happening, and then he tells you what you could do. Because again, it's up to you. It's your will. It's up to you. So he says here, one of my favorite passages, right here, you'll see that right there. Okay. That's where I'm going to read. He says so eloquently. Again, he's giving us the science, and the step-by-step science at that. He says, read this book every day. Keep it with you. Commit it to memory. And do not think about other systems and theories. If you do, you will begin to have doubts and to be uncertain and wavering in your thought. And then you will begin to make failures. After you have made good and become rich, you may study other systems as much as you please. But until you are quite sure that you have gained what you want, do not read anything on this line but this book, unless it be the authors mentioned in the preface. And I will show the preface for those of you who may or may not have a copy of this, although there's the link in the group page, but he shows it here. I will just show, this is the preface here. And then further down, you will see where he says, he gives the names. Right there, my squiggies, you will see it. Okay? He is very clear as to the steps that we must take in order to master the science of getting rich. And ladies and gentlemen, there is a science to it. And all I ask of you to do is to pick the book up, first of all, print the PDF that's in the group page, and or you can Google it yourself, print it out, read it, listen to the audio daily, even while you're working, and trust me, it'll start seeping in. You will begin to hear yourself quoting certain things because you've heard it so much. But then you will also be a person that will be able to demonstrate what it truly means by the science of getting rich. I am AnneHumphrey, your transformational life coach and speaker. Also, upcoming best-selling author of Damn It, Execute, and the creator of this fantastic group here on Facebook, the Science of Getting Rich Mindset and Mastermind Group. I thank you for joining us tonight. Please stay tuned as I will be reading the next chapter, 10, and I will keep you posted in the group. Again, thanks a lot, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Have a fantastic evening. Thank you for joining me.